Hello, in this video I am going to show you how I reconcile my accounts receivable detail to the general ledger in IQReseller in the event that you've booked all of your entries, you've run your balance sheet, and the AR detail now is different than what the balance sheet shows. So for example, in this case, the variance between my general ledger and my AR detail is $611.60, and I need to now figure out what invoices or transactions make up the variance. So let's get into it. So for starters, you're going to need to run two different reports. The first report is in the invoices open invoiced aging section, and you'll want to show the balance in this case as of 5/31/2022. And the second report you're going to need to run for this analysis is the ledger detail report. So you'll go to ledger detail. You'll need to pick your accounts receivable account. In my case, our accounts receivable account is 1105. Now, like I said, we are new to IQReseller, so we started in 2022. You'll need to run this detail for the entire population, or the entire time that you need to get all of the detail associated with this account in order for this analysis technique to work. So I've run both of those reports already, and so then what you'll need to do is open up a new spreadsheet, and then we're going to combine a few of the details from each of those reports, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do a pivot table, and the pivot table will then produce the fallout of those two reports. So, and then I'll show you, how we get there. So, all right. So step one, I have three different columns here. I'm going to have my source column, my invoice number column, and the invoice amount column. So if we pick the, let's go to our AR detail. So I'm going to now just copy over the invoice numbers, this, and then I'm going to go ahead and get the amounts from the due column. And so I will grab these right here, and I'm just pasting his values into this secondary sheet. And if you'll notice here, as I sum up, the sum equals the amount of the AR detail. Now, in order to have this work with a pivot table, I'm going to have to label the sources. So in this case, I'm just making this up. I'm going to call it the AR aging right here, and then I'm now going to get my ledger detail. So in our case, it's still a few thousand rows, but this could be, in your case, if you've been using IQReseller for a long time, it could be a lot more data. And let's grab the amounts here. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to label the source of this data as ledger detail here. Okay, and so now we have our data. Okay, so now that I have the details in my table, I'm going to delete this row, and now I'm going to insert a pivot table. So to do that, insert pivot table, and if you notice here, what Excel does is it will automatically make the table set down to the to the last detail, in this case down 8,446 rows. If I was going to set this up as a template, what I would do is just go like that, highlight across A, B, and C, columns A, B, and C, and if you notice there, it will capture all the detail that are put into this column. So if the next month you go and there's 9,000 rows or 10,000 rows, it'll capture that. So I'm going to click OK, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to now drag over into the rows. We have our invoices over here. In the columns, we're going to have our sources, and then here is going to be our amounts. Now, me personally, I've been using pivot tables for a long time. I like the classic view. So if you'll notice here, invoice number 17, AR aging is 524, ledger details 524. The grand total, it's going to sum across. So that's fine, but what I want to do is I want to have the matches equal 0 and the variances give me a value. So what I'm going to do here is in the ledger detail, I'm just going to reverse the symbols, reverse the signs of the invoices. So I'm going to go here under times -1, and now I'm just going to drag that down here. Oops, let's see, let me try that again. Let's see here. I'm going to do Control-C, and I'm just going to go down to the bottom of my AR aging detail here. And I'm going to copy up. So basically, Control-C, reversing the signs. So that way, I'll get rid of these. So that way when I come into here, typically I'll label this pivot. Come in here, inside the pivot table, hit refresh, and then if you'll notice, it changed the signs. Now, if I come here and put a filter on the grand total, and let's see, one other thing here, my value settings, I want to set the format here, like so. There we go. And then I'm going to now remove the blanks and the zeros, and if you'll notice, I now have isolated the 3 invoices that are making up my variance. It looks like I have an issue with an invoice transaction that's on or inside the ledger detail but not on my AR aging report, and it looks like I have 2 invoices that are on the AR aging report that for some reason a payment has been applied or it's not showing in the AR, or excuse me, in the ledger detail. So now it's up to me as the analyst to go into IQReseller and to start researching these invoices and what the particular problem is, and why they're not showing up and agreeing on the report to the ledger detail. So anyway, I believe that's a decent technique in order to find variances in accounts receivable. I think you could use the same technique here by bringing, combining details from 2 different sources, putting it into one table, creating a pivot table, and seeing what falls out. Anyway, hope that might help someone else out that is an IQReseller user. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and I hope this video was helpful. Thank you. Have a great day.